Good to have you with us on this Wednesday edition. Ed Schultz, Susan commentary. Been working in Wisconsin and, of course, back for the shows late yesterday afternoon, so here I am with you on a Wednesday. You know, I'm going to address this head on. The Clintonistas are on my Facebook trolling me because I'm a Bernie guy, and that's fine. I got it. But I just want to point out a couple of things that I think are an issue. There's this big conversation going on right now, which is being pushed forward by the Clinton backers, that how are we going to bring the party together? And maybe it's about time Bernie get out of it. You don't hear any Bernie supporters doing that. And by the way, I've never seen a network so in the tank for a candidate the way CNN is. And I'm going to do a story on that tonight on the News with Ed at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on RT.com and Dish and Direct. All right, but the point I want to make here is that Hillary Clinton, in my opinion, is aggravating this. In this news cycle right now, she is questioning whether Bernie Sanders is a Democrat. Now, Harry Reid thought Bernie Sanders was a Democrat because he was the ranking member on the Senate Budget Committee, also the ranking member on Veterans Affairs. I mean, none of the Democrats were complaining about that. None of the Democrats have ever complained about Bernie Sanders caucusing with the Democrats and all of his progressive votes on the Senate floor. But now Hillary Clinton is out there saying, well, she's really not sure if Bernie's a Democrat. I mean, that's low rent. And so on one hand, they say they're concerned about bringing the party together. On the other hand, all they're doing is insulting the senator and insulting the 6+ million people who have given $27 to his campaign. And he's out there raising $44 million, $67 million over the last 60 days, but he should get out of the race. The former mayor of Philadelphia, Michael Nutter, needs a mental examination if he thinks that a candidate who raises $40 million a month ought to think about getting out of a race and really recognize the time that, you know, because of a delegate count. The delegate count is rigged. These super delegates that are putting Hillary Clinton over the top and close to the nomination, they're bought and paid for, okay? They were selected, and they made a selection, and they were into the Clinton camp before people even voted. And so what we're seeing here is a long run, a marathon, not a sprint, a marathon of the country changing. And the mainstream media just cannot believe that Bernie is doing exactly what he said he was going to do after Super Tuesday. Once they get out of the South, the map is a lot more favorable to him. And the map is important. Wisconsin's important, and it's a statement. 60% of union households in Wisconsin voted for Bernie Sanders. But wait a minute. The Clinton camp is saying that they've got all this union support. Really? Show me the votes. Now, what's important here is that a union state, it is New York. And so we got 2 weeks now of run-up of stories to get ready for New York, plus one debate on Thursday night, the 14th. And so the Clinton campaign has decided, well, let's make people think that Bernie's not a Democrat. I find that shallow. It's weak. It's insulting. And it just is alienating people who want progressive policies in our government. The next thing, she's concerned that Bernie doesn't have a complete plan in an editorial interview for how to break up the banks. Okay. Breaking up the banks is a pretty complicated thing. And to be judged by a Rupert Murdoch product, the New York Daily News, Democrats, progressives, liberals don't fall for that bullshit, okay? Bernie Sanders knows exactly what he wants to do with Wall Street. He knows exactly how he wants to do a transaction tax. He knows exactly how he wants to break up the big banks. And do you think he's going to spill the beans on how he's going to do it in front of a Rupert Murdoch-owned property? It isn't going to happen. He probably should have never done the interview at all. So now Hillary is mocking on CNN today, mocking and laughing at a Cuomo interview when asked about the plan to break up the banks. Tell me, Hillary, you have been on the road talking about how you just want to expand Obamacare. Really? Is that the same plan that the Democrats have voted down 50, or the Republicans have tried to kill 50 times in the United States Congress? So tell me, how are you going to, what's your health care plan, Hillary? What, are you just going to expand on Obamacare? Okay, what's your first step? We haven't gotten that. So if you want to play tit for tat on detail, I guess there's probably a lot of material out there. Now, the other thing that I find very interesting in all of this is that Hillary is off doing fundraisers because she can't keep pace with Bernie. None of the mainstream media is reporting it like that. They're just saying, "Oh, Bernie, he did 44 million last year, and Hillary Clinton did 25." This is huge, to use that word again and again. This is impactful on many fronts. That money isn't going to stop coming in on the heels of Wisconsin. There'll be a ton of money coming in because you know what? The Bernie backers are believers now. You can't tell me that a guy's going to go around the country and raise this kind of money, and he's going to go around the country and get these kinds of crowds, and he's going to win Wyoming. And I know Democrats that Wyoming isn't a big state at all. Well, you know what? Neither is Mississippi and Louisiana, because you're not going to win those either. But we got a real good shot at winning Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and Colorado, and Washington, and Oregon, and California, and New York. Obviously, New York is a big Democratic state, and it's the big breadbasket of 246 delegates, and it's also going to be a real opportunity for Bernie to go in there and find out if Hillary can defend her turf. And so this is good. It's good as long as we don't insult, right? I'm just asking for a plan from Hillary on what you're going to do about health care. What's your next step? Bernie Sanders wants to go to universal health care. It's about a movement. It's not just about this election cycle. It's about the 2.5 years from now. It's the 4 years from now. And what's happening here is we're seeing a sea change in the progressive movement in this country. Now, Hillary claims that she is a candidate that can get things done. I can't wait to see that, because the Republicans don't move. They want to privatize Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. They want TPP. I haven't seen Hillary sign the pledge against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, although she says she's against it, but I'm supposed to believe that, and so are millions of Americans who are concerned about party unity. So we can go right down the list here. We are in an ideological fight, not only for the country, but we are in an identity crisis for the Democratic Party. Just what is the progressive movement? What is liberal politics? Where do we want to take the country when it comes to these populist issues that Bernie Sanders has struck a nerve with across the country? And if you think that he's going to go around the country getting these crowds and getting all these millions of dollars and go to the convention and say, "Well, Hillary, I guess it's all yours because you got more super delegates," it ain't going to work that way, folks. We're going to have more action at our convention than the Republicans are going to have at theirs. And we're going to come out with a seasoned, ready-to-fight candidate. So you Clinton Eastas can rip me all you want and get personal and talk about my career or whatever you want to do on my Facebook. That's fine. But it just goes to show that you're not in the arena of debate. You're not in the arena of being concerned about what the next move on health care is. I happen to be, because my family's living it. Or Bernie Sanders telling this story about nobody believed that was going to be a $15 an hour minimum wage. I love that, because it's big thinking. And he talked about it last night in Wyoming. So what's the next big thing for Hillary Clinton? What's her big idea? There are no big ideas. There are no big ideas. Okay, because she has to get along and she has to be a progressive to get things done. You're not going to get anything done with these Republicans because they're not going to budge on anything. They want to privatize everything they can get their hands on. And so let's identify the issues and where people are. And you know what? That's exactly what the country's doing, and that's why Bernie's on a roll. And I'll tell you this right now, New York is too close to call. New York is way too close to call. PillPack, Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you Ed Schultz news and commentary. When we come back, a review of Wisconsin and moving forward. Ruth Conniff joins us. Stay with us. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, WeGotEd.com. or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit. Good to have you with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Quick review of Wisconsin with Ruth Conniff, editor, Progressive Magazine in Madison. Ruth, always great. By the way, you've been doing fantastic work on our show on TV, and I really appreciate your accessibility here on our video cast. Thanks so much.
Oh, I love it, Ed. Would not miss it for the world.
What did you think of the results? I mean, it was a little bit wider than the poll that was out there, and it was in the face of voter obstruction when it comes to all of the new laws in Wisconsin. What do you make of it?
Big. I mean, I feel like it's been underplayed. 12%? Are you kidding me? Like, that's huge. 4% was really news. It was big news here when the Marquette poll said there was going to be a 4% gap between Bernie and Hillary. You could tell Hillary's internal polls said the same thing because she basically left the state for New York. And, her campaign people were looking a little grimly in the last few days before the election. So, likely he was going to win. They were already spinning it as meaning nothing because the delegate count is so stacked against him. And then he reaches a number that actually really puts him in the game. So I just feel like people haven't talked enough about that.
Are you getting kind of sick of the lack of big picture and this constant focus on the math? I mean, we're looking at math versus momentum. We're looking at a fight for the heart and soul of the progressive movement, I think. Your thoughts? I
think you're totally right about that. And I always appreciate the way that you talk about it because we're so overwhelmed with this CNN, it's kind of like the weatherman on TV seems to have all the funding on the local news. Right now we've got these maps, we got these delegate counts, and we got all this convention, we're looking at the rules of the conventions, and we're going to be doing this until July. And meanwhile, it creates an outcome. So many people are voting for Hillary Clinton because they believe she's a candidate who can win. So every time they turn on CNN and they hear another whole news show on how if you count the delegates, she's going to win, it creates that very outcome. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And but then meanwhile, Sanders is now won. It's going to be 8 out of 9 with Wyoming on Saturday. I mean, it's just, if he wins 8 in a row, at what point do you say, maybe that's going to affect people's perception of whether he can win?
That's right.
He is winning.
That's right. All right. I don't want to put any thoughts in your head. I want to ask you a direct question. Hillary Clinton is questioning whether Bernie Sanders is a Democrat. I want your response.
Well, look, I got to tell you, Bernie Sanders is an exciting candidate because he is not a mainstream Democrat. And, as you know, he's been Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, who caucuses with the Democrats in the Senate. And before that, same thing in the House. So he joined the Democratic Party in a strategic decision not to be Ralph Nader, not to go as a third-party candidate, but to compete within the primary and compete for votes. And the one of the two major parties that is more likely to come out as a progressive party.
Well, if Hillary Clinton doesn't think that Bernie Sanders is a Democrat, then she shouldn't have any problem if he decides to run as an independent and have a third candidate in the race. What about that?
There you go. I mean, look, the Democratic Party has some ideals and some sense of sort of being the progressive party, but I think throughout its history, it has not always lived up to those ideals. And if you talk to my friend John Nichols, he will say, the Democratic Party has really, from its beginning, its inception, not been such an idealistic party. So I personally, not being a party person, am not the least bit bothered by party affiliation. I think that Bernie Sanders represents the progressive movement, and I think that's what's inspiring millennials, and they're not necessarily buying the Democratic Party brand. There's something really corrupt about that brand. It's very closely associated with corporations and big money.
There's a lot being made in the media about Bernie Sanders' sit down with the New York Daily News, which I've already pointed out to everybody. Let's not forget it's a Rupert Murdoch-owned property. I don't know when they become the standard bearer for journalism, but apparently they didn't like Bernie's answers, and so now he doesn't have a plan to break up the banks.
Yeah.
I mean, does he start picking and choosing his media now? What do you think?
I think he gets in there and he fights really hard in the New York media market, which is the biggest media market in the world, and where he's going to have a really tough time because there is a war going on for the soul of the Democratic Party, and it's going to be bare knuckles in New York right up until the primary there, and this is the beginning of it. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be tough because it's a real fight, and that makes it very interesting.
Is it achievable for Sanders?
I do believe it's achievable. I do. I think, if you get away from this, this mass question as if this were all inevitable and foreordained, and you look at the effort that he needs to make in the next couple of weeks to just get out and actually talk to people individually can change their minds, and if they think that this thing has any kind of a chance, and they see it as inspiring, as obviously voters in Wisconsin did, then, yeah.
Okay.
We could really keep going.
Ruth Conniff, editor of the Progressive Magazine. One more point I want to bring up with you, your take. What is life going to be like for Donald Trump post-Wisconsin?
He's going to win some more, but the Republican Party establishment, as it did in Wisconsin, is going to rally around Ted Cruz. They have decided they're
whether they like it or not.
They don't like him. They didn't like him in Wisconsin. They made a decision that he was the only path to defeating Trump. And I think all across the country now, right up until the convention in July, they're going to be pushing for Cruz to get him close enough to beat Trump in the second ballot.
Okay.
And Cruz is going to keep courting those delegates, and that's their strategy.
So they would be doing this, running the risk of the ego and the millions of people that have voted for Trump, running the risk of his ego that he would not run as an independent. I mean, what he has said in the past and what he might do in the future, given the circumstances that would unfold in a convention where he would not get the nomination, is he going to be able to pack his ego away to accept the fact and then go home and continue to build hotels and life is going to be good? I mean, come on. I think Trump is going to go to the mat and he is going to do whatever he has to do to be president of the United States.
I think he's come really far into this, and I think he has an argument that really makes sense to a lot of Republican voters, which is, I won, so I should be the nominee. I got the most votes. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I think people look at that as a basic fairness issue, and it fits right in with his critique of the establishment and the idea that there's some kind of conspiracy, and I think that's really flammable, and I think that's going to be really interesting. It's going to be quite a fight. The next stage is if he doesn't get the nomination, does he run as an independent? He'll decide based on whether he thinks he can win, I think, because he doesn't like to do anything but win.
Ruth Conniff, always great to visit. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ed.
You bet. Ruth Conniff, editor of the Progressive Magazine. Now this about PillPack. Dealing with medication can be a real pain in the neck. I don't know if you take medication for your neck pain, but some people do. You don't need that. When it comes to the business end of it, look, you take what your doctor says to you seriously, and he gives you recommendations, says you got to take this medicine now, you can't forget, blah, blah, blah. You don't want any hassles. You don't want to stand in line at a pharmacy sorting pills every week's a pain in the neck. All right. And you're constantly dealing with your doctor and health insurance coverage, everything else. Can I just tell you, get rid of all of that. Go to pillpack.com. I found this service, and they are just pharmacy normal. They're absolutely fantastic. They deliver your prescription right to your door, so you never have to wait in line. It just comes to your door, and you know what? They package the medication by the dose. You never have to sort the pills anymore. It's all hassle-free with the doctors and the insurance, and, I love it. And the best part of it is, here's a word I know you're going to love: free. You just pay your regular copays like any other pharmacy. Sign up to learn more at pillpack.com. Trust me. Listen to Ed Schultz here. Trust me. This is great. You'll love it. Pillpack.com. It's pharmacy simplified. You won't believe how simple it is to stay on track with your medication, and you got help and backup doing it. Pillpack.com. And by the way, if you ever got a question, 24/7, call them. Ask them a question. They're right there for you. Just a phone call away. Pillpack.com. Do it today.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Ed Schultz News and Commentary brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team. All right, so let's all be nice on Facebook. Like me on Facebook. You'll love the comments. I do a Give Me a Minute every day and post it right up there. And normally about 50 to 100,000 people watch it. And thanks for the download and the watch here. WeGotIt.com, RawStory.com, and RingOfFireRadio.com. We're back tomorrow.